Suffering doesn't actually stem from what happens to you. It's rooted in how you respond to it. More specifically, in your resistance to what is. If you're serious about breaking free from the cycle of emotional pain that keeps repeating itself, you need to first come face to face with a harsh but crucial truth. The real cause of suffering isn't the events in your life. It's the fight against them. It's the mental and emotional resistance you put up that turns pain into prolonged agony. Most people never figure this out. They go through life unknowingly trapped in an internal loop, stuck replaying the same emotional wounds again and again. All the while, they don't realize it's their own resistance that keeps the suffering alive. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history, captured this idea brilliantly in one unforgettable line: "What you resist persists." And that's not just a poetic quote to ponder. It's a psychological truth that plays out in everyday life. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a deep psychological and spiritual principle that can completely shift the way you experience life. Take a moment to reflect on it. Anytime something painful happens, maybe you get laid off, a relationship falls apart, someone betrays your trust, or you hit a major roadblock, your emotional response is completely human. You might feel overwhelmed with sadness, anger, fear, confusion, or disappointment. And that's okay. These are natural, valid emotions, part of what it means to be human. But here's where it gets interesting. The real suffering doesn't come from the event itself. It comes from your mind's struggle against it. It's that inner voice that screams, "This isn't how it's supposed to be," or whispers, "This is so unfair. I can't handle this." That internal resistance, that unwillingness to accept the moment for what it is what turns pain into torment. It's not the experience, but the refusal to let go of how it should have been, that keeps you locked in suffering. That, right there, is the real root of suffering. The truth is, our minds are naturally wired to crave control. We want life to bend to our expectations. We try to dodge discomfort whenever we can. We cling to predictability, to a sense of safety and stability. But life doesn't play by our rules. It dances to its own unpredictable rhythm. So when the unexpected happens, when life pulls the rug out from under us, our first reaction is almost always resistance. We push back. We try to argue with reality. We tell ourselves, "This shouldn't be happening to me." And in that split second, that mental pushback against what is, suffering takes root. Take something like a breakup, for instance. The raw pain of losing someone, that's real, and it can last for days, weeks, sometimes even months. But the suffering that stretches on for years? That deep, gnawing heartache? That comes from something else entirely. It comes from holding on, from replaying old memories on a loop, from believing over and over that things should have ended differently. It's not the actual loss that's tearing you apart. It's the refusal to let go of what's already happened. And this pattern shows up everywhere, in betrayal, in rejection, in failure. The event itself doesn't break you. It's the ongoing mental fight against accepting reality that does. So how do we escape this exhausting cycle? How do we finally set ourselves free? The answer lies in a spiritual principle so powerful, it can transform your entire outlook: radical acceptance. Now let's get one thing straight. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It's not about pretending to be okay with what happened. It doesn't mean you're okay with it. It doesn't mean you approve, or that it didn't hurt. Acceptance simply means you stop fighting reality. You stop wasting your energy on a battle you can never win. You stop pushing against what's already happened. And instead, you take that same energy, all that mental and emotional weight, and redirect it toward the one thing you can control: your response. And here's the shift. When you finally stop resisting and truly accept what is, something powerful starts to happen. The heaviness begins to lift. Not because the pain disappears overnight, but because you're no longer feeding it. You're no longer giving it life by resisting. Picture someone who's just lost their job. If they cling to anger and blame, if they keep telling themselves it was unfair, they'll stay stuck in that pain for years. They'll carry that resentment like baggage into every new opportunity. But if that same person chooses to accept the situation and ask themselves, okay, what can I do with this? Everything changes. In that moment, they take their power back. Instead of reacting to life, they begin responding with purpose. They stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. And the pain? It becomes fuel, a powerful catalyst for growth. That's the real secret. It all comes down to how you see things. Carl Jung often emphasized the need to integrate every part of our experience, even the parts that hurt. Because pain, when we stop resisting it and instead embrace it, has the potential to become wisdom. One of the biggest traps we fall into is thinking that our suffering is somehow special, that no one could possibly understand what we're going through, that our pain is deeper, heavier, more unbearable than anyone else's. But here's the truth. Pain is a shared part of being human. Everyone hurts. What sets people apart, what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck, isn't the amount of pain they feel. It's how they relate to it. Those who resist pain suffer. But those who accept it, they evolve. They rise. If you're serious about healing, if you truly want to feel free, then the first step is to stop fighting against life. Stop battling what already happened. Accept it. Accept what you can't change. Accept what is. And then, turn your attention toward what you can change. Here's the part nobody really talks about when it comes to breaking free from suffering. The most eye-opening truth is that the majority of your pain didn't come from the event itself. It came from how tightly you held on to it. Maybe a relationship ended, and it shattered you. Years went by, and the heartbreak never fully left. But the breakup wasn't the only cause. It was the clinging, the refusal to release what was. Maybe someone betrayed you, and you just couldn't move on. But the real weight came from the grudge, from the anger you couldn't let go of. Or maybe you missed out on a big opportunity, and ever since, you felt stuck and directionless. But it wasn't just the missed opportunity that hurt. It was the fixation on what could have been. The moment you stop resisting, the moment you stop wrestling with reality, the walls of suffering begin to fall. Now, that doesn't mean the pain vanishes in an instant, but it does start to lose its power over you. Slowly it softens. And over time, it transforms from something heavy and suffocating into something meaningful. A lesson, not a life sentence. But here's where it gets even deeper, the part most people never pause to consider. Your unconscious mind plays a major role in keeping you stuck in suffering. Because once you understand that pain comes from resistance, the next question is, if I know this, why do I still keep falling into the same emotional traps, repeating the same cycles? And this, right here, is where the shift happens. Because once you uncover the hidden answer to that question, something powerful begins to awaken in you. You have way more power over your life than you've probably ever realized. So stick with this, because in the next part, we're about to uncover something that could shift everything for you. We're going to explore how your mind has been unconsciously trained to hold onto suffering, and more importantly, what you can start doing right now to break that cycle for good. Let's start with a tough truth. Your unconscious mind is wired in a way that keeps dragging you back into pain, again and again. If you've ever felt like emotional pain just keeps sneaking into your life out of nowhere, like you're cursed with bad luck or endless setbacks, then it's time to wake up to a truth most people are too afraid to face. You're not cursed, but you are caught in a loop. And here's the shocking part. You're the one replaying that pain over and over without even knowing it. Not because you want to suffer, of course not, but because your unconscious programming keeps steering you straight back into the same emotional traps. Carl Jung, one of the most respected figures in psychology, once said something that hits hard, and for good reason. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What he meant is this: the pain you keep encountering isn't random. It's not some cosmic punishment. Life isn't just cruel for the sake of it. You're not cursed, broken, or unlucky. The truth is much deeper, and much more empowering. Inside you, buried in your subconscious, are patterns, emotional habits, mental scripts that you keep replaying without even realizing it. And no, it's not because you want to. It's because those patterns are familiar. They've been wired into your inner world for years. Your unconscious mind works like hidden software, installed early, long before you even knew what was happening. If you grew up in an environment where love came with conditions, or pain was normal, or abandonment felt expected, then those early experiences became your blueprint. You didn't choose them consciously, but they shaped how you experience life today. These patterns weren't chosen, they were absorbed, imprinted into your system early on. And now, without even realizing it, they're the ones running your life. But no one ever tells you this. See, your unconscious mind isn't wired for happiness, it's wired for familiarity. That's why, even when your conscious mind is screaming to break free from suffering, a deeper part of you keeps pulling you back, toward the same kinds of people, the same painful situations, the same emotional outcomes. It's not just bad luck. It's not random. It's a pattern. It's the hidden trap of the unconscious mind, quietly steering your life while you think you're in control. Think about it. Have you noticed you keep finding yourself in relationships that hurt more than they heal? Or those moments when things are finally going well, you feel joy, success, momentum, and then, somehow, you sabotage it or lose it all without knowing why. Have you ever sworn, this time it'll be different, only to end up facing the same kind of pain again? That's not misfortune. That's programming. That's your subconscious at work, repeating what it knows, even if it hurts you. That's emotional self-sabotage. But here's the question: why would anyone keep choosing what breaks them? The answer goes back to what you absorbed in childhood. If you grew up learning that love was always followed by pain, abandonment, or rejection, then as an adult, you'll unconsciously gravitate toward relationships that recreate that version of love. Not because you enjoy suffering, but because that emotional pattern feels familiar. And in the strange logic of the nervous system, familiar equals safe, even when it causes pain. If you faced rejection, shame, or emotional neglect early on, then today, you might avoid putting yourself out there, whether in relationships, career moves, or your biggest dreams, because some part of you is still afraid that same pain will come back. So you stay in what's predictable, what's safe, even if that means staying stuck in cycles of suffering. And here's the part that hits the hardest. Until you become aware of these hidden patterns, you'll keep living them out, over and over, and you'll call it destiny. You'll find yourself asking, why do I always attract the same kind of person? Or why does my life never really change? Or even, why does everything always seem to go wrong for me? But here's the truth: it's not fate. It's not some cosmic punishment. And the universe isn't working against you. It's you, unknowingly replaying a script that was written deep inside you a long time ago. So, how do you finally break free from this unconscious cycle of pain? Here's the key. You can't change what you can't see. If you genuinely want to escape this loop of emotional suffering, the first thing you need to do is recognize the pattern you've been acting out. You have to shine a light on what's been hidden. Begin by asking yourself some brutally honest questions. What's the one emotion that's shown up the most in your life? Is it rejection? Abandonment? Betrayal? Frustration? Fear? What kinds of people or situations do you seem to attract again and again? And what story are you quietly telling yourself about who you are and what the world is like? When you answer these questions with complete honesty, something powerful starts to unfold. You begin to see that the suffering you thought was coming from the outside was actually coming from within. You've been unknowingly projecting it onto the world, again and again, without even realizing it. And that's the moment when everything can start to shift. Now, let's be clear. Breaking out of emotional patterns doesn't mean you'll never feel sadness or anger again. Those emotions are part of being alive. But it does mean you'll stop being controlled by a hidden script. You'll stop being a prisoner of unconscious patterns that used to run your life without your permission. Because the moment you become aware of your unconscious programming, everything shifts. You're no longer a prisoner to it. You stop being dragged around by patterns you didn't even know existed. You can't avoid pain completely. That's part of life. But what you can do is stop recycling it. You can stop replaying the same emotional loops. You can stop choosing suffering without even realizing that you are. From that point forward, your choices become intentional, not reactive. You start living with awareness instead of running on autopilot. And in the next section, we're diving even deeper into the heart of what keeps the pain alive. We're going to unpack the role of the ego and how it silently fuels your suffering behind the scenes. Most importantly, you'll learn how to disarm its grip before it keeps sabotaging your peace, your relationships, and your growth. Because once you understand how the ego operates in all of this, that's when everything changes. That's when you truly begin to take your power back. So let's talk about the ego and why it feeds on your pain. The ego is what keeps your pain alive. And if you're serious about breaking free from the emotional patterns that have been wounding you, there's something crucial you need to understand. Your ego is the biggest barrier between you and true healing. It's that inner voice whispering that you're right to feel hurt, that life is unfair, that others need to change before you can feel peace. It feeds you stories like, "I'm always the victim," or "nothing ever works out for me." And while those stories may feel true, here's the brutal reality. The ego doesn't want you to heal. Because if you truly let go of your suffering, the ego loses its identity. It has nothing left to cling to, nothing to fuel itself with. The ego feeds off conflict, off blame, off judgment, and the illusion that you're separate from others. It needs drama to survive. It convinces you that your pain is proof you're right, and the world is wrong, that your resentment is justified, that your wounds are sacred and must be protected at all costs. But when you begin to see the ego for what it truly is, a defense mechanism, a mask, a survival instinct, everything starts to shift. You realize you no longer have to be controlled by it. You begin to step into a deeper, more authentic version of yourself, one that doesn't need to hold onto pain to feel real, and doesn't have to keep reliving the past just to feel safe. Because here's the truth, healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who you had to be. Carl Jung said it best, "The mind that creates the problem is not the same mind that can solve it." That single sentence carries a deep truth, one that exposes the root of your suffering. The part of you that caused the emotional wounds in the first place can't be the part that heals them. And that part is the ego. But the ego isn't just a voice in your head. The ego is more than just a voice. It's the lens through which you see the entire world. And here's the painful irony. It's that same ego that caused your suffering to begin with. So when you try to heal from within the ego, all you're really doing is strengthening the very pain you're trying to escape. But how exactly does the ego sabotage your emotional healing? It's clever. It doesn't shout, "I want you to suffer." Instead, it whispers seductive little justifications, reasons that sound so convincing you don't even question them. It plays the victim's narrative on repeat. It reminds you of every betrayal, every injustice, every time someone walked away and left you broken. Like a film stuck on a loop, It replays those memories over and over, making you believe that holding on to them somehow gives you strength, control, or protection. But in reality, that loop keeps you stuck. Not powerful, trapped. You stay trapped, locked in the same loop of pain, stuck inside the emotional prison the ego carefully constructed. One of the most dangerous things the ego does is convince you that your suffering is your identity. It makes you believe that your pain defines who you are. Asterisk, and without even noticing, you begin to see yourself through the lens of your past wounds. You start saying things like, "I always get betrayed," or "people always leave me," or "this kind of thing always happens to me." And every time you think it, every time you speak it out loud, you reinforce that belief. You etch it deeper into your sense of self. Bit by bit, you become loyal to your pain. Then the ego pulls another trick. It shifts all the blame outward. It convinces you that the problem isn't within, but out there. That your pain is someone else's fault. That life owes you something it hasn't delivered. It tells you that your life has to change before you can feel okay. And that right there is the perfect trap. Because if the answer is always outside of you, then you never have to take full responsibility for your healing. You stay stuck in limbo, waiting. Waiting for an apology. Waiting for justice. Waiting for someone else to come and make things right. But while you're waiting, you're not growing. You're not moving forward. You're not healing. You're frozen in place. Because here's the truth, the ego thrives on conflict. It feeds off comparison. And it clings tightly to old wounds that never get the chance to fully close. Why? Because it keeps picking at them. Again and again, until they bleed. The ego thrives when you focus on everything that went wrong. It keeps you circling in a loop of self-pity, resentment, and blame, whispering that you're powerless to change anything. And that's where the victimhood trap begins. One of the most subtle and dangerous ways the ego keeps you small is by wrapping you in the identity of the victim. When you slip into that role, you start believing that all the pain in your life is someone else's fault. That your struggles are caused by other people, by bad luck, by a cruel and indifferent world. And while blaming the outside world feels like a kind of self-protection, here's what it really is: the surrender of your personal power. Because the moment you believe you have no control, you stop looking for solutions. You stop taking action. You stop evolving. And that is exactly what the ego wants. The ego's mission is simple: keep you small, helpless, and stuck in suffering. But here comes the hardest truth to face, the one most people spend their whole lives avoiding. No one is coming to save you. Not the person who hurt you. Not the ones you blamed. Not the world that didn't play fair. No amount of tears, complaints, or pointing fingers will change that reality. The only one who can break this cycle is you. So how do you begin to disarm the ego and take back control of your life? It starts with one fundamental shift: realizing that you are not your ego. You are not your suffering. You are not your past. And you are definitely not that inner voice that keeps telling you you'll always be a victim. The ego wants you to grip tightly to your pain because that's what sustains it. But the moment you stop feeding it, its power begins to fade. That's when it starts to weaken. And as the ego begins to lose its grip, something incredible begins to unfold. You start to wake up. You begin to return to who you truly are. There are 3 powerful steps to start breaking free from the ego's control. First, become the observer of your thoughts. When that voice in your head starts dragging up old wounds, when it tells you life is unfair, stop. Don't react. Just notice it. Watch the voice like an outsider watching a movie. And remind yourself, this voice is not me. It's just a program, a repetitive mental pattern that's been running in the background. A recording on loop. And here's the magic: the more you observe it without identifying with it, the less power it holds over you. Second, Stop feeding the story of your suffering. Every time you replay the story of how someone hurt you, every time you tell that story to anyone who will listen, you're reinforcing the wound. You're giving it more fuel. Ask yourself honestly, does this story strengthen me, or does it drain me? If it weakens you, it's time to let it go. Stop rehearsing your pain like a script you have to perform. Third, do the opposite of what the ego wants. The ego thrives on drama. It wants you to lash out, to stay bitter, to hold tight to grudges and anger. But when you choose calm over chaos, when you respond with acceptance instead of resistance, when you detach rather than react, you disarm the ego. That's how you reclaim your power. The moment you begin to see the ego for what it really is, just a survival mechanism, not your identity, its control starts to fall apart. You no longer feel the need to cling to pain. You stop chasing external validation. And you no longer see yourself as a victim of your story. And in that moment of clarity, something powerful clicks. The suffering didn't come from what happened to you. Yes, the pain was real. The experience hurt. But it was the story the ego wrapped around that pain, the narrative you kept replaying, that kept you stuck. Now we arrive at one of the most transformative truths about emotional healing. Pain doesn't disappear by fighting it. It doesn't fade because you resist it harder. It starts to dissolve when you meet it with something entirely different, with understanding, with presence, with compassion. But here's the thing, no one teaches us this. From the time we're young, we're taught to run from pain. Don't cry. Be strong. Don't show weakness. So we grow up learning to suppress it, to push pain away, to pretend it's not there, to keep running. But here's the truth most people never hear. What you resist persists. The more you try to bury your emotional pain, the more power it takes over your life. Repressed pain doesn't just disappear, it sinks deeper. It hides out in your mind, your body, and your everyday behavior. It shows up as chronic anxiety, as sudden bursts of anger you can't explain, as numbness that leaves you disconnected from life. And the more you avoid feeling it, the more tightly it wraps itself around your subconscious. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You cannot heal by pretending the pain isn't there. You heal by facing it, by bringing it into the light. You have to face your pain, fully, honestly, and without resistance. Think of pain as a force. The more you push against it, the more it pushes back. That's why, when you try to run from emotions like sadness, grief, or anger, they don't fade, they grow louder. You tell yourself not to cry, not to feel, not to fall apart. So you distract yourself, with work, with scrolling, with noise, anything to avoid being alone with what hurts. But the moment everything goes quiet, when the distractions fade and you're finally by yourself, the pain comes flooding back, stronger than before. And what do? We point fingers. We blame others. We say, this is their fault. We tell ourselves the pain was caused by them. But as long as you're projecting the pain outward, you'll never take that brave look inward. And this is where true healing begins. It's not the pain itself that breaks us. It's the resistance to the pain that makes it unbearable. So how do you break the cycle? What's the key? You accept the pain. You stop running from it. You allow yourself to feel, fully, consciously, and without judgment. If sadness shows up, let the tears come. If anger rises, sit with it. Don't act on it recklessly, but don't push it away either. Observe the emotion. Witness it. Feel it as it moves through your body like a wave, not a threat. And here's what's incredible. When you stop resisting the pain and start meeting it as a natural part of the human experience, something begins to shift. It loosens its hold. The monster that once felt so big in your mind, it starts to shrink. And here's the most beautiful truth of all: nothing lasts forever. Every emotion, no matter how overwhelming, is temporary. Every wave of pain, every storm of sorrow will pass if you let it. But the moment you resist it, the moment you carry the story with you everywhere you go, you stretch the suffering far beyond what was ever necessary. Healing doesn't live in some distant future. It happens now, in the moment you stop running from yourself and start embracing who you are fully. Scars, shadows, and all. That's when real transformation begins. Carl Jung spoke deeply about the power of interchange. And one of the most essential truths on that path is the understanding of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever, not joy, not sorrow. Everything is always moving, always shifting. And when you realize that, you begin to let go. You begin to heal. Just like pleasure, pain is temporary. It doesn't define who you are, and it was never meant to last forever. Think back to a time when you faced something really hard. In that moment, it probably felt like you were stuck in a storm with no way out. Maybe you felt hopeless, drained, like the weight of it would never lift. But it did. You made it through. And here you are, wiser, stronger, and carrying new perspective. You survived before, and you will again. Whatever pain you're facing now, it too will pass. The storm will settle. And yes, the sun will rise again. So the real question becomes, how do we begin to radically accept pain instead of letting it consume us? How do we stop being ruled by our suffering and start reclaiming control over our emotional lives? There are practical steps you can begin taking today, simple but powerful tools that will help you break free, step into your inner strength, and finally begin to experience emotional freedom. Step 1. Stop judging your pain. Don't label it. Don't try to dissect or overthink it. Avoid questions like, "Why do I feel this way?" or "When will this finally be over?" Instead, just allow yourself to feel, without resistance, without shame, and without attaching a story to it. It's not good. It's not bad. It's simply an experience passing through you. That's all it is. Step 2. Bring your awareness into the body. When emotions like anxiety, anger, grief, or sadness rise, the mind will want to spiral, creating stories about how unfair life is, or how broken you must be. Don't go there. Gently bring your attention back to your body. Ask yourself, where do I feel this emotion? How is it showing up physically? Maybe it's a tightness in your chest, a lump in your throat, shaky hands, a knot in your stomach. Just notice it. That awareness alone is a form of healing. Observe the sensation without trying to fix it, change it, or fight it. Step 3. Breathe through it. Instead of clenching your jaw, tightening your fists, or reaching for a distraction, try this. Just breathe. Take a slow, deep breath, and then another. Let your breath gently move through the emotion, like wind passing through leaves. You don't need to force the pain to go away. You don't need to do anything. Your only job is to be present, fully, intentionally, peacefully present with whatever is showing up. And here's the beautiful part. When you stop resisting and start meeting pain with awareness, something shifts. You realize it doesn't control you. Yes, the pain may still exist, but its grip? That starts to loosen. You're no longer a victim. You become someone who can walk through pain, not with fear, but with strength, with emotional maturity, and with quiet grace. That's your real power. Not in control. Not in resistance. But in acceptance. Most people spend their entire lives running from pain, hiding behind distractions, burying it under work, numbing it with addictions, or pretending it doesn't exist. But freedom doesn't come from escaping pain. It comes from facing it, directly, consciously, and with an open heart. And when you do that, when you stop fighting and allow yourself to truly feel, something incredible begins to unfold. You realize pain was never the enemy. Suffering wasn't there to punish or destroy you. It came to wake you up, to shape you, to transform you. And once you truly grasp this, the fear begins to fade. So now, let's go even deeper. Because when you stop resisting pain, something remarkable becomes possible. You can use it, not just to heal, but to grow, to evolve in ways you never thought possible. This is where real transformation begins. You can take your pain and turn it into power. This is the alchemy of healing. By now, you understand. Resisting pain only fuels it. Avoiding it only drives the wound deeper. But accepting it, that's the first doorway to freedom. Yet there's something even more extraordinary you can do. You can transform your deepest suffering into your greatest strength. Carl Jung understood this on a profound level. He spoke of alchemy, not as a literal turning of lead into gold, but as a metaphor for the inner transformation of the soul. A psychological and spiritual evolution. Real alchemy doesn't happen in a lab. It happens within us. The lead? That's our pain. Our deepest wounds. Our fears. Our traumas. And the gold? That's who we become when we stop running from that pain and instead allow it to shape us, to refine us from the inside out. Wisdom, strength, emotional maturity, deep compassion. These are the treasures waiting on the other side of suffering. So the real question isn't, how do I avoid pain? That's the question we've all been taught to ask. But it's the wrong one. The real question is, how can I use this pain to become stronger, wiser, freer? That's the hidden power of suffering. It's not a punishment. It's a wake-up call. A call to awaken to who you truly are. Think about the strongest people you've ever met, the ones with real depth, quiet insight, and a steady presence that speaks louder than words ever could. They didn't become who they are because life was easy. They didn't find strength by dodging pain or avoiding hardship. They walked through the fire. They were cracked wide open. And on the other side of that breaking, they were reborn. Because every painful experience is more than just a wound. It's a crossroads. A sacred invitation. You can choose to let it shut you down, or let it open you up. You can allow it to define you, or you can allow it to refine you. That's the moment when transformation begins, the decision to stop clinging to who you were, and start becoming who you're meant to be. Someone more awake, more grounded, more connected to the pulse of life itself. Carl Jung spoke of this powerful moment as the dark night of the soul, a phase where you're brought face to face with your deepest pain. It's not just emotional, it's spiritual. It feels like the ground beneath you is giving way, like your world is unraveling, like the weight you're carrying is just too heavy to hold. The pain feels crushing, overwhelming, even suffocating. But Jung never saw this moment as a punishment. He understood it as something sacred, an invitation to transform. Not a test of brute strength, but a question of your willingness to grow, to evolve. Because it's exactly when everything feels lost, when you're convinced you can't go on, that you're actually standing at the edge of your greatest breakthrough. Now imagine this. Instead of resisting the darkness, you paused. You took a breath. And you asked yourself, what is this trying to teach me? Not, why is this happening to me? But how can I use this pain to rise, not fall? And in that moment, something incredible begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of your story, and you start becoming the alchemist of your own life. You begin turning destruction into rebirth. From the ashes of what once was, a new version of you starts to rise, stronger, wiser, and more aligned with who you truly are. Because every time you've faced loss, betrayal, heartbreak, or deep disappointment, something inside you has quietly died. And while that might sound heavy, here's what most people never realize. That death was necessary. It was the death of illusions. The breakdown of false hopes. the unraveling of identities you'd outgrown. And every ending like that, painful as it may be, brings with it a sacred chance to begin again. To rebuild yourself from a deeper, more honest place. If you pause and really reflect on your life, you'll probably notice something surprising. It wasn't your happiest moments that shaped you most. It was the challenges, the hardships, the moments when life pushed you to your absolute limit, and you discovered strength you didn't know you had. That is the heart of transformation. Pain, at its core, has the power to break you wide open. It shatters the beliefs you once clung to about yourself, about others, about the world. It forces you to stand still and face the mirror, to confront everything you've avoided. Your shadows, your wounds, the parts of you you've been too afraid to see. And in that confrontation lies a hidden gift, the choice. You can either stay stuck in the pain, let it harden you, define you, or you can let it refine you, push you forward, call you to evolve. So how do you actually begin that transformation? How do you turn suffering into strength, pain into purpose? Here's a practical starting point. Step 1. Shift your mindset. Pain is not a punishment. It's an initiation. Life doesn't hand you suffering to destroy you. It gives it to awaken you. Life gives you challenges not to punish you, but to wake you up. Those who view pain as unfair often stay stuck in bitterness and blame. But the ones who embrace pain as part of the path, they come out the other side stronger, wiser, more resilient than ever. Every challenge is a doorway, a chance to grow, to learn, to evolve. So instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What is this here to teach me?" That shift changes everything. Step 2. Transform your story into your power. Look at the people who have walked through deep suffering and emerged not broken, but brilliant. People who were rejected and learned how to validate themselves from within. People who were betrayed and uncovered the strength of trusting their own intuition. People who hit rock bottom and found a kind of power they never even knew was inside them. Your story is uniquely yours. No one else has lived it. But what you do with it, that's entirely up to you. Step 3. Let pain fuel your purpose. Pain has two paths. It can either break you down or build you up. And that choice is yours. If someone hurts you, don't stay stuck in resentment. Use that pain as fuel to rise. If life has felt unfair, show the world your strength by rising above it. If you've experienced loss, let that emptiness become the space where meaning is born. The most impactful people in the world didn't get there by avoiding hardship. They got there by turning their pain into purpose, using it as a launchpad for something far greater. And now comes the final step, turning pain into wisdom. Because when you've truly walked through suffering, and you've taken the time to learn from it, something extraordinary happens. You become unshakable. You stop reacting to other people's negativity, because you now see it for what it is, a reflection of them, not you. Their projections are no longer yours to carry. You no longer fear pain, because you've faced it, and you made it through. And not only did you survive, you came out of it stronger, wiser, more deeply rooted in your truth. You become someone with real presence, the kind of quiet strength that speaks without saying a word. Because you've walked through darkness and found your own light. This is what Carl Jung called individuation, the sacred process of becoming your most authentic self. No masks, no roles, just you, whole, integrated, and fully alive. You arrive without fear, without needing anything outside of you to prove your worth. And when you reach this place, something begins to shift. The emotional cycle of pain starts to dissolve. You no longer define yourself by what broke you. You don't run from pain, you welcome it. As a teacher, as a guide, as a signal that you're ready to step into your next evolution. And then it hits you. Pain didn't weaken you. It made you invincible. Now the choice is yours. Who will you become now that you know your power? Deep down, you already know the truth. Pain isn't something to run from. It's not your enemy. It's the spark, the catalyst, that can ignite your most powerful transformation. And now you have a choice. You can stay stuck in suffering, resisting life, feeling like a victim of everything that went wrong. Or you can take that very same pain and turn it into fuel, to rise, to grow, to become someone wiser, stronger, and completely unstoppable. Only one of those paths will set you free. So which one will you choose? If you're ready to break the cycle, if you're ready to turn your hardest moments into stepping stones for growth, type it in the comments below. I transform my pain into power. Blackheart. Because once you make that decision, once you fully commit to owning your story, there is nothing and no one that can hold you back. In the end, it all comes down to one question. Will you let pain control your mind, cloud your thoughts, and drain the life from your spirit? Or will you do what few ever have the courage to do? Turn it into the very thing that transforms you. Carl Jung said it best. You cannot truly awaken until you've hit rock bottom. And now that you understand the deeper truth behind suffering, the power to rewrite your life is already in your hands. Pain only holds power when you fight it. But the moment you stop running, the moment you welcome it as your greatest teacher, everything begins to shift. You're no longer a victim of your story. You are the author of it, the master of your destiny. And if you've made it all the way to this point, it's not by accident. It means you're ready. Ready to take your life back. Ready to stop letting pain define you, and start writing a new chapter, one filled with purpose, power, and transformation. But remember, this is just the beginning. The next video will take you even deeper. It's powerful, eye-opening, and it might just shift everything you thought you knew. So go ahead, click now, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications. Don't miss the content that could genuinely change your life. I'll see you in the next video.